In the small, sun-baked town of Omerogan, there lived a boy named Dayo. From the time he first wore the khaki uniform of Primary 1, Dayo had only one thing on his mind: fun. He played when he should study, slept when he should read, and laughed when he should learn. While his mates moved up each year, Dayo remained rooted like a stubborn tree in the same class, repeating year after year. By the time Dayo barely crawled his way into Primary 6, his former classmates were now in secondary school, and the whole village laughed behind his back. They called him the old boy in a young child's uniform. Eventually, Dayo managed to reach secondary school, but by then, he was 25 years old, twice the age of most of his classmates. His voice was deep, he had a beard, and his school sandals barely fit his big feet. Still, his attitude hadn't changed. He didn't care about school. He only showed up because his father, a strict businessman, chased him back each time he tried to drop out. Within weeks, Dayo formed a gang of other unserious boys. He became the boss of the class, not by academic excellence, but by intimidation. He extorted food, snacks, even pencils from the younger students. Teachers dreaded correcting him because he was bold and loud. Then one day, everything changed. A new teacher walked into the classroom, Miss Amara, a beautiful, confident woman with kind eyes and a firm voice. The entire class sat up, but Dayo stared like he had seen an angel. For the first time, he paid attention in class. He did his homework. He even told his gang to cool down during her lessons. Everyone was shocked. Miss Amara noticed the change and began talking to him during break time. They would sit under the mango tree, and he would tell her about his life, his dreams, and how he felt left behind. She listened. She encouraged him. They became friends, real friends, but not everyone was happy. Other teachers mocked Miss Amara. "You and that class captain gangster again?" They would sneer. Sometimes she cried quietly after school, and Dayo would find her and comfort her. "Don't mind them," he said. "You care about me." That's more than they've ever done. And when one of the teachers, a man who had a secret crush on Miss Amara, confronted Dayo, threatening him to back off, Dayo laughed. Then, in his usual rugged way, he landed one hard punch, leaving the man with a swollen face and a bruised ego. Miss Amara was shocked, but secretly laughed. No one ever disturbed her again. Months passed, and Dayo's life began to change for the better. He smiled more. He studied harder. His gang began to disband, realizing that Dayo's fire had turned inward. Miss Amara had lit a spark in him. But just when everything seemed to be heading somewhere, tragedy struck. Dayo's father, the only pillar holding his world together, passed away suddenly. Dayo was devastated. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. Worse still, his mother was a full-time housewife who knew nothing about running his father's business. There was no money left for school fees. With a heavy heart, Dayo dropped out of school and took over his father's business. Fortunately, he had followed his dad for years and knew how everything worked. He worked hard, sweating under the sun, managing clients and keeping books. Every day after school, Miss Amara would visit him, bringing food, a smile, and comfort. They talked, laughed, and even argued about life and dreams. Then one day, under the shade of a neem tree by his father's old shop, Dayo looked into her eyes and asked, "Will you marry me?" Miss Amara was stunned. Then, slowly, she smiled and said, "Yes." They visited each other's families. There was surprise, hesitation, then joy. The villagers who once mocked Dayo now called him the man who turned his story around. And so, Dayo and Miss Amara got married, blending love, redemption, and a second chance at life. Together, they opened a new school in the town, one that welcomed children who had once been mocked, just like Dayo. They lived not just happily ever after, but meaningfully ever after. Moral of the story: no one is too lost to be found, and no heart is too hardened to change. Sometimes all it takes is love, guidance, and someone who truly believes in you.